playfully mocked him as weak and said he should watch me in the corner, he became furious and did this. Ever been in a situation where a little teasing spirals into a full-blown disaster? A situation whereby you did something wrong to a particular person, and they retaliated by making sure you absolutely regretted it. Have you ever been in a situation where the person sets a trap for you and carefully weaves a web of deceit for weeks just so you can absolutely ruin your relationship? Because if you've not been in a situation like that, you should thank your lucky stars. Why am I saying this? Because I have been, and I think it might just ruin my relationship. I think my relationship is done for, but I honestly don't want it to be so. My name is Rose, and I've got a story that'll make you think twice before poking fun at someone. I am posting here because I want to rant, and also because any advice would be appreciated. I'm 26 years old, and my boyfriend Nathan is also 26. We met on Tinder, found out we went to the same college, clicked instantly, and soon found ourselves deep in a serious relationship. We have been dating for about 5 years now. I genuinely thought this was the person I would marry and spend the rest of my life with. Now, Nathan was a great guy, kind, caring, and always looking out for me. But one day I made a playful jab at him, calling him weak in a moment of jest. Little did I know that harmless comment would set off a chain reaction of revenge and deceit. Now, I know you might be wondering, why did you mock him? Honestly, I was partially being playful. And there was also the fact that Nathan had always been known as a bit of a simp. He always went out of his way to please me and make sure I was happy. This had even led to a few of our friends even playfully mocking me and calling him a simp. He didn't mind though, and would even joke along with them. I guess I always took Nathan's love and devotion for granted. He was like a rock in my life, always there to support me, always putting my needs before his own. It's easy to get comfortable in a relationship, isn't it? You start to believe that things will always be the same, that your partner will always be by your side no matter what. The day everything changed started off like any other. We were casually chatting, joking around about someone or something. I honestly don't recall the details. In the midst of our banter, I playfully teased Nathan, saying he should watch his back because I might just leave him for someone else. It was meant to be a lighthearted remark, a playful jab in the midst of our laughter. Nathan laughed and said I would never leave him, to which I then playfully said that I just might. I said he was weak and a bit of a simp, so he should probably watch me. It was all jokes, honestly, but Nathan's reaction caught me off guard. Instead of laughing it off, he fell silent. I could sense a shift in the air, a subtle tension that hadn't been there before. It was as if my words had struck a nerve and awakened something within him that he had kept hidden. Looking back now, I realize how insensitive my comment was. Nathan had always gone above and beyond to make me happy, to show me love in ways both big and small. Calling him weak and a simp in that moment was like dismissing everything he had ever done for me. It was a wake-up call, not just for him, but for me too. It made me realize the weight of my words and the impact they could have on our relationship. But little did I know this innocent banter would set off a series of events that would change things between us. After my playful banter with Nathan, things between us started feeling off. I noticed Nathan wasn't as protective as before, which was a big change because he used to always have my back, sometimes to the point of being overbearing. He'd ask about my day, check if I got home safe from work when he wasn't home, and just generally be attentive. But after that conversation, it was like a switch flipped. He stopped checking in as often, texts became fewer, and calls were more sporadic. It felt like he had withdrawn, leaving this gap between us. I tried to write it off as work stress or something temporary, but deep down I knew it was more than that. I started missing how he used to hold me close in crowds, making sure I felt safe. Now it was like he had lost that protective instinct. It left me feeling exposed, like a safety net had been pulled away. I couldn't help but wonder if my teasing had pushed him away, if I had somehow caused this shift in our relationship dynamics. I noticed that things had indeed changed between us, but I wasn't sure how to bridge that gap, or if it was even possible anymore. As Nathan and I lived together, our dynamic was such that he took on most of the household chores despite earning significantly more than me. He enjoyed cooking, cleaning, and doing the dishes, especially since he knew how much I disliked those tasks. It was a routine we had settled into, and it worked well for us. However, after that playful conversation, I noticed a shift in Nathan's behavior around the house. He stopped taking the initiative to do the chores he used to handle with joy. Cooking became less frequent, cleaning sessions were no longer as thorough, and the pile of dishes in the sink started to grow. At first, I brushed it off, thinking he might be busy or preoccupied with work. But as days turned into weeks, it became evident that something had changed. Nathan seemed less invested in our home life, almost as if he had withdrawn from the little things that used to bring us joy. I tried to pick up the slack, but it wasn't the same. I missed the days when Nathan would surprise me with a delicious dinner or clean the apartment just to see me smile. It felt like a part of our connection had faded, leaving a void in our shared responsibilities and, more importantly, in our relationship. At first, I must admit, I felt a sense of relief when Nathan became less overbearing and didn't fuss over every detail of my whereabouts. It was liberating to have the freedom to go out with my friends without constantly updating him or worrying about his reactions. I could plan spontaneous weekend getaways or spend the night with my friends without feeling suffocated by messages or calls from Nathan. It was like a breath of fresh air to have that space and independence. I could focus on myself more, pursue my hobbies, and reconnect with friends without feeling guilty or obligated to constantly check in with Nathan. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I appreciated the newfound freedom in our relationship. However, as time went on, I began to realize that this newfound freedom came at a cost. The lack of communication and engagement from Nathan started to feel like indifference. I missed the times when he would show concern or take an interest in my plans. The absence of his messages or calls, while I initially liked that, now felt like a void in our connection. I started to question whether this shift in our dynamic was healthy for our relationship. While I enjoyed the independence, I also longed for the closeness and intimacy that had once defined our bond. As Nathan's behavior continued to change, I started noticing the absence of those little gestures that used to mean so much to me. He stopped opening the car door for me, something he always did without fail before. It may seem like a small thing, but those acts of chivalry were symbols of his care and attention. Moreover, Nathan's attitude towards finances shifted as well. He earned significantly more than I did, and he used to take care of our financial needs without any complaints. If I needed money for shopping or any other expenses, he would readily provide it without hesitation. It was a comfortable arrangement that worked well for us. However, after what happened, Nathan's generosity seemed to drop. He became more frugal with his money, and I found myself having to ask for financial support, which I had never had to do before. It created this sense of unease and dependency that I wasn't accustomed to. I felt like I had lost not just his emotional support, but also the financial security that his income provided. The lack of these small but meaningful gestures and financial support added to the growing distance between us. Well, as the distance between Nathan and me grew, I found myself seeking validation and attention elsewhere. It started innocently enough, just casual conversations and harmless flirting with people I met in social settings or online. These interactions provided a temporary distraction from the emptiness I felt in my relationship with Nathan. Then as time went on, I noticed that I was seeking these interactions more frequently. The attention and compliments I received from others filled a void that was growing deeper within me. It was as if I craved that sense of being desired and appreciated, something that seemed to be missing in my relationship with Nathan. And I know you might be thinking, why didn't you just try to talk to Nathan? Well, when I tried to talk to Nathan about what I was feeling, he brushed off my concerns, and he would even gaslight me into thinking I was overthinking or projecting my insecurities onto our relationship. He would invalidate my feelings, make me doubt myself, and even question whether I was being irrational. This only made things worse. I felt unheard and misunderstood, and it pushed me further towards seeking validation outside of my relationship. As time continued to pass, the distance between Nathan and me only seemed to widen. Despite my efforts to mend our relationship, nothing seemed to work. Nathan had closed himself off emotionally, and no matter how hard I tried to communicate or reconnect, it felt like hitting a wall. The frustration and loneliness I felt reached a breaking point, and as you might have already guessed, it led to a moment of weakness where my harmless flirting crossed a line into full-on cheating. It was a mistake I deeply regretted, and I knew it was wrong. It happened only once, but the guilt still weighs heavily on me. What makes matters worse is that I didn't confess to Nathan about my infidelity. I was ashamed and afraid of his reaction. I knew it would devastate him, and I couldn't bear to see the pain in his eyes. So I hid it. The realization of how far apart Nathan and I had drifted hit me like a ton of bricks when I found out about his huge promotion and the house he bought without informing me. It was a devastating blow, and the way I found out made it even more painful. I still remember the shock and embarrassment I felt when our mutual friends casually mentioned Nathan's promotion and his new house in conversation. I was taken aback, not just by the news itself, but by the fact that Nathan hadn't deemed it necessary to share such significant milestones with me, his partner. What made it sting even more was the fact that we had always talked about getting a house together. It was a dream we both shared, and I had imagined us taking that step as a couple. The realization that Nathan had gone ahead and made such a major decision without involving me felt like a betrayal of our shared dreams and aspirations. So yeah, I decided to confront Nathan, and it was a turning point that shattered any remaining illusions I had about our relationship. I realized that he had been pushing me away and gaslighting me, making me doubt my own feelings and perceptions. Confronting him was supposed to be a moment of clarity, a chance for us to address our issues and work towards a solution. However, I'm sure you've already guessed that it didn't go as I imagined. Nathan's response was unexpected and hurtful. He accused me of disrespecting and insulting him, and he used that as justification for his changed behavior. He argued that he had always been the one putting in the effort, and that he saw no point in continuing a relationship where his efforts were not appreciated. What cut deepest was when Nathan revealed that he knew about my infidelity. It was like a dagger to my heart, realizing that he had found out about my mistake and had been holding it against me. He was very angry, and then he stormed off. Now I feel like I'm at a crossroads. I feel like I'm losing or have already lost the relationship that once meant everything to me. Yes, I made a mistake, but it was born out of feeling neglected and unappreciated. Nathan may have been a simp in some ways, but he was a good simp, and I didn't want him to stop caring or making efforts for our relationship. So here I am reaching out to Reddit for advice. What should I do? Is there any way to salvage what's left of our relationship? Is there any way to get Nathan to forgive me? I just want my old Nathan back. Update. Hello, Reddit. It's been a while since my first post, and I've received a lot of requests for an update, so here I am. I want to address some of the comments and DMs I received after my previous post. Firstly, I want to acknowledge the hateful comments and DMs I received. They were hurtful, and I understand that my actions have consequences. A lot of people said I was trying to narrate the story in a way that painted Nathan as the villain, but no, I'm not trying to paint Nathan as the villain or absolve myself of responsibility. I know that I made a mistake, and I take full accountability for it. Many of you suggested couples therapy and individual therapy, and I appreciate those suggestions. It's something I've been considering, as I realize the need to work on myself and our relationship. Regarding financial dependence, I agree that it was not wise of me to rely entirely on Nathan. I work in a field that honestly doesn't pay well, and Nathan, being more financially stable, took on more responsibilities. It became a pattern, and I got accustomed to it. However, I should have been more responsible and independent financially. Nathan had just always been more financially smart, and with him being the man in the relationship, I just left things up to him. Some comments mentioned that cheating is a deal breaker, and while I understand that perspective, every relationship is unique. Cheating was a mistake on my part, and I regret it deeply. However, I believe in forgiveness and second chances, especially if there's genuine love and commitment. I believe Nathan will forgive me. We've been together for a very long time. He knows that me cheating was a mistake, and I know he will get over it. Ultimately, I'm here seeking advice and guidance. I want to know if there's a way to rebuild trust and salvage what's left of our relationship. I'm aware that Nathan may not forgive me easily, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make amends and work towards a better future together. It's crazy how some folks on social media jump to conclusions about me just from a few posts. They're calling me a narcissist, unfeeling, and entitled without really knowing me or my story. They act like they've got it all figured out, saying I'll see things differently when Nathan leaves me. But relationships are way more complicated than that. You can't judge someone's life from a few online updates on posts. I have texted Nathan and he says he is on his way home. We are probably going to talk and I will update on that. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I feel it's important to keep you updated, so here's the latest. Nathan returned home and we had a much-needed conversation. I suggested couples therapy as a way to work through our issues, but Nathan was leaning towards breaking up. I had to plead with him not to give up on us just yet and to give therapy a chance. We agreed that if therapy didn't help, we would then consider breaking up. Despite the challenges, I still love Nathan and want to salvage our relationship, so I'm cautiously optimistic. Plus, there's the practical aspect. I rely on him for a lot of things. We found a therapist with excellent reviews and booked our first session. I'll keep you posted on how it goes. Update. Hey Reddit, I'm back with another update. Despite the negativity I faced on here, like I've gotten lots of DMs and comments, I believe it's important to keep you all informed. Our first therapy session was a bit rocky. Nathan had been keeping to himself a lot, and despite my efforts to engage him with special nights out or deep conversations, he still remained distant and reserved. We even had an argument during this time, which was about money. I asked him for some financial help, which he declined. For our first session, we discussed various issues and challenges. I brought up Nathan's reluctance to share money and his emotional distance. I also mentioned how sensitive he seemed about a playful comment I made. However, the therapist pointed out that Nathan's feelings were valid, and it was okay for him to express emotions like anyone else. I'll keep you all updated on how things progress from here. We went through a few more therapy sessions, and it became clear that things weren't improving as we had hoped. Nathan expressed his thoughts, and he told me that he had deeply considered our relationship but couldn't find it in himself to forgive me. He opened up about how he felt he had always been the one putting in significant effort into our relationship, shouldering responsibilities and trying to make me happy. He said that it was very hurtful for me to mock him as weak, and that me calling him a simp struck a chord. Nathan also did admit that he has purposely tried to gaslight me because he was so hurt. During our last session, Nathan then finally came clean. He wanted to break up. He mentioned that he had been working on the house he bought, and now that it was ready, he planned to move in there. To be honest, hearing that news left me in a panic. I relied on Nathan for so much, financially and emotionally. Without his support, I wouldn't be able to afford the lease on my own. The rent was simply too high. Moving back in with my parents wasn't an option either, given how crowded their house already was with my siblings and their families. Plus, I didn't really have any friend that would let me move in. I was now feeling desperate. I pleaded with Nathan to reconsider, to give our relationship a few more chances through therapy. I knew deep down that losing him would drastically change my life, and I wasn't sure how I would navigate through everything ahead without his presence and support. There was no hiding it. I was broke, and without Nathan, I would definitely fall. As much as I pleaded and begged, Nathan remained stubborn in his decision to break up. He expressed remorse but explained that he needed to move forward with his life without me. In the following days, he came over to pack his belongings. I tried everything to stop him, from emotional appeals to physically attempting to restrain him, but I guess that only seemed to anger him further. What made matters worse was that I had already spent my last paycheck, and so I was in a financial bind until the next month. With desperation starting to set in, I reached out to our mutual friends for help. I told them that Nathan was leaving me but didn't disclose the full truth about the cheating, knowing they would likely blame me if they knew. I asked them to talk to Nathan, hoping they could convince him to reconsider. However, instead of mediating, our friends bombarded Nathan with calls and messages, pushing him until he revealed the truth about my infidelity. That must have changed their perception of the situation entirely because they turned against me. They criticized me for not being honest with them and said it was disgusting that I had omitted such crucial information intentionally. The betrayal I felt from both Nathan's departure and our friend's reaction was overwhelming. I felt like I was running out of options, so I turned to our parents for help. I begged my parents to intervene and speak to Nathan and help convince him to reconsider, or at least provide me with some financial support to cover the rent and bills until I could figure things out. I also reached out to Nathan's parents, hoping they would understand and help mediate the situation. However, things didn't go as planned. I'm not sure what Nathan told them, but both sets of parents turned against me. Nathan's parents, along with mine, seemed to side with him completely. They were disappointed in me and echoed the sentiment that I was to blame for the situation. It was honestly very disheartening to see them take Nathan's side and not offer any support or understanding. After trying everything, I reached out to Nathan directly, hoping he'd understand. But he accused me of trying to ruin his reputation and said any sympathy he had was gone. Feeling desperate, I even went to Nathan's workplace to talk, but he threatened a restraining order instead. It's crazy that after we've been together for so long, he's serious about ending things completely. Now I'm stuck. Friends and family turned against me. Nathan won't help, and I'm lost on what to do next. It's tough and uncertain, and I'm really struggling to figure it out. Any advice would be appreciated. Update. This is probably my last update. Things have been really tough, and the negative comments and messages have been getting to me. People are calling me crazy and delusional and said I was stuck in my head. A lot of people even expressed sympathy and pity for Nathan more than me and said that they would probably have gone ahead to file a restraining order if they had an ex like me. Honestly, I was hoping for some understanding or support, but it's clear that's not happening. It feels like everyone has turned their backs on me, and I'm in a really tough spot. Next month's rent is a big question mark. I might not be able to afford it with how expensive things are here in my state, and the fact that there's a housing crisis, and finding a roommate hasn't been easy. If I can find someone to share expenses with, maybe I won't have to move out right away. But so far, no luck. Thanks to those who followed my story and offered advice. It's been a wild ride, and I appreciate the support.